Ever since the UK left the European Union, British citizens living in the EU have become vulnerable, and more needs to be done to protect them. We're going to have a look at this latest on the issue with The Guardian. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here, and we're going to have a look at this article from The Guardian with regards to EU citizens within the European Union. And the Lords are urging Suella Braverman to protect the rights of vulnerable British citizens within the EU. The committee highlights serious problems with residence schemes affecting Brits already living in the EU before Brexit. Yeah, so these issues were already highlighted before we even had left the European Union, and they were kind of left in limbo, and still to this day, 2023, it's May 2023, still some of them have been left in limbo or at risk of facing deportation, at no fault of their own, not even at the EU's fault to an extent. This is about the UK government pulling its finger out and making it clear to British citizens in the European Union what they need to do. So let's dive into it, guys. So an influential House of Lords committee has urged Suella Braverman to step up efforts to protect the rights of vulnerable British citizens in the EU after the case of an elderly woman with dementia who was threatened with deportation from Sweden. I had a video covered on this, and I'll put a link into that in the description if you want more about it. It also says more needed to be done to ensure the rights of EU citizens in the UK, also guaranteed under the Brexit withdrawal agreement, were protected to prevent a Windrush-type scenario. Stuart Wood, acting chair of the European Affairs Committee, said, as the passage of time since the UK's exit from the EU grows, it is imperative that the rights of UK and EU citizens remain a top priority to continue to receive the highest political attention. In a 9-page letter sent to the Home Secretary, Lord Wood's committee said they had been made aware of a serious problem with residence schemes affecting British citizens who were already living in the EU before Brexit. Yeah, see, there were already issues that needed to be addressed, and they were not addressed when the vote was made. I'm sure that from the EU's point of view, they made clear that more needed to be done from the UK's point of view to ensure that British citizens were and their rights were protected within the EU. But at the end of the day, we are a third world country, and European nations have to treat British citizens as third world citizens, because we're not part of the European Union anymore, and it's important to emphasise that. And obviously, some cases have been more. Everyone's cases have kind of been treated differently. Some more sympathetic than others, and yes, you can attack Sweden, for example, with their case, but at the end of the day, it's a decision that the UK government should have done more, and they're still not doing anywhere near enough that they need to be to protect the British citizens. Issues including the implementation of the withdrawal agreement in Denmark and Sweden, where they were told that the refusal rate for British citizens applying for their paperwork to stay in the country after Brexit was disproportionately high. Yeah, see, they were told after Brexit, and that they needed to pay paperwork, so they were not informed. Now you might say, well, Denmark and Sweden should have told them. Well, no, it's the British government's role to look after its citizens, is it not? That's a question. Among those who refused were Catherine Poole, a 74-year-old British woman who cannot walk or talk, and was threatened with deportation from Sweden because she did not have the completed paperwork to stay in her care home. Her removal order has been frozen, but only after her family went to the press, and the campaign group British in Europe brought her family's plight to the attention of authorities in Stockholm and Brussels. Yeah, if it wasn't for the press, she would have gone, And obviously, the EU doesn't like bad publicity. So, but they can't do. But this is not going to be able to work with every single British citizen in the EU. The committee also heard of a British family of 4 and 2 young children who were also threatened with removal from Sweden, and British children facing difficulties in Malta when they turn 18. Yeah, what's going to happen to them when they turn 18? Peers told Braverman that they were very concerned to hear that resources to support UK citizens in the EU has been scaled back substantially since 2021, Why? Oh, that's right. Austerity? Is that the reason? With no official organisation to provide advice to the 1.32 million British people settled in the EU, and no statutory body monitoring the enforcement of the withdrawal agreement across the EU. This was inspired the rise of serious and complex cases such as that of Paul. Who are they supposed to go to? Who are they supposed to speak to? They've been left in limbo by the British government. It's ridiculous. Several witnesses who gave evidence to the committee, including Sue Wilson, the chair of the Bremen in Spain campaign group, said the decision to close the UK national support funds meant vulnerable people, including pensioners in Spain, might no longer be able to access the support they needed. Concerns were also raised about British nationals' ability to travel within the Schengen area, with misunderstanding among border officials about the difference between holidaymakers and British residents in the EU under the withdrawal agreement. Yeah, how are they supposed to know who are holidaymakers and who are British residents exactly? Not exactly easy for them to know that. Again, another thing that the Home Office should be doing. In relation to EU citizens in the UK, the committee pointed out that there was still a backlog of 181,000 EU citizens waiting for their decision on application for settled status. This is a result of the cutbacks to civil servants within the Home Office. We already know that there's a massive backlog of asylum seekers to be claimed and processed as well. So this just compounds it. And this 181 EU citizens, it's been what? A couple of years now since we officially left the European Union, and we still have this backlog. Ridiculous. Peers told Braverman they heard applicants being left in limbo, unable to apply for a provisional driving licence, get an EHRC card for holiday health insurance in the EU, or access social rights. They've been left in limbo, just like UK citizens in the EU. EU citizens in the UK who haven't gotten their settled status have been left in limbo. They told Braverman that in some cases the EU citizens were being advised not to travel out of the country where decisions were pending, making them effectively imprisoned in the UK. Yeah, there's no and the worst thing is that at the end of this, right, there's no spokesperson for the Home Office, no comment from the Home Secretary. Where is the response? There is absolutely no response. This is ridiculous. Once again, people being left out there on their own to deal with this situation, a situation that is of no fault of their own. You know, it's no fault of their own. You know, whether we had left or stayed in the EU is still the British government's responsibility to look after its citizens, including citizens outside the UK. And I'm sure that the EU is trying to do everything it can to protect the EU citizens living in the UK, but you know, this backlog of 181,000 is just, and it's been what, over 2 years now. Okay, they might argue that, you know, they were dealing with a pandemic, but I don't think that's a fair assessment. And yes, we do have massive asylum claims as well, but more needs to be done. And you know, EU citizens are being left hung out to dry in the UK, as the same is for UK citizens within the EU. But hopefully, you know, the EU nations are more sympathetic to the British citizens out there. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that, because at the end of the day, they have rules and laws that they must oblige by, whether those citizens want to agree with them or not. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Hope you guys found this interesting. Like, share and subscribe as always, guys, would be much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon.